Hi everyone, welcome to my podcast. This time I'm going to do a little introduction on my work with veterans. So I'm going to not only maybe enlighten some veterans on the work I do and their loved ones, but I might also give out a few tidbits for my colleagues who hope to help veterans one day too, because I've learned a lot, some in training and some the hard way. If you're like me, you like to learn from other people's mistakes, so I'm going to just go ahead and share those. So just to get started here, you're probably wondering who I am. I am Sherilyn Sabankaya, a licensed professional clinical counselor in both California and Oregon. I have an office in Mount Shasta and Ashland, and I have taught some upper division psychology courses at Southern Oregon University, basically the micro skills of counseling. But I'm in private practice. That's what I've been doing the last many years. So let me just explain how I ended up working with veterans. It was about the time that I earned my license that I started to get calls from the VA asking me to accept referrals through the CHOICE program. Although the focus of my practice at the time was gender identity development, which is kind of another story. Hopefully you watch that podcast too. But the reason I was deciding to accept those referrals from the VA was just as a way for me to pay it forward and show my appreciation for their service. So that's why I did that. That said, ironically, a lot of the veterans I did end up seeing did end up presenting with symptoms of gender dysphoria because, a lot of people join the military to get away from their problems, whether it's childhood trauma, bad relationships, or gender dysphoria. So I ended up getting some veterans with gender dysphoria, which was kind of an interesting twist of events. But anyway, I did also start seeing veterans without gender dysphoria, with traumatic brain injuries, depression, PTSD, relationship issues, alcoholism, anxiety, hypervigilance, you name it. So I did get to see veterans with other issues. As with the other two groups I work with, I wanted to become professionally competent to work with veterans. So I participated in the psych armor training, which was a real eye-opening experience for me. They basically put about 40 of us clinicians in a room, and then they brought in people from the military to share with us their experiences with not only their shitty experiences with therapists who had good intentions but just didn't get them and chased them out of their office because they were so bad. Not that they didn't have good intentions, but because the therapists just weren't trained in military culture. So the veterans came for their intake but never came back because the therapist drove them crazy. And these were the things that the psych armor taught us clinicians in order to be more effective and to not chase you out the door. So for example, on the very first day, they taught us, don't thank veterans for their service. And I thought, oh shit, because that's what I did with all of my veterans. So they explained that unfortunately for a lot of veterans, that ends up being kind of a trigger for negative feelings and negative memories or thoughts about, why are you thanking me? Like, for example, a thought a veteran might have if you thank them for their service, they might say, what are you thanking me for? Are you thanking me because I was stupid and gullible and I trusted our government? Are you thanking me for ruining my marriage? Are you thanking me for destroying my body and my mind? What are you thanking me for? And it just gets them going into a dark place. So the next week when I saw my veteran clients for their next sessions, I asked them, hey, when we did our intake and I thanked you for your service, how did you feel about that? And they kind of looked down. Well, not very good. Why didn't you tell me? I was trying to be polite. Okay, well, if we're going to work together and I'm going to help you, you have to make your needs known to me. You have to tell me when I piss you off, basically, So what they taught us in the training was right. All of my veterans said that they felt bad when I thanked them for their service. That's a bad coincidence because, as with me and so many people I know, we really appreciate people's service and we do want to thank them. I did have one veteran tell me, who works for the VA actually. We were on the phone talking about billing issues and I brought this up to him. I asked him, hey, are you one of those veterans who doesn't like being thanked for your service? And he said that he learned somewhere to say, thank you for your cervix, because it catches the veteran off guard and then makes them laugh. So it kind of lightens the mood, but lets them know that you do want to thank them for their service. So I don't know. I haven't tried that yet, but we'll see how that goes. I'll be sure to let you know if it's a winner or not. Anyway, so we did learn obviously a lot of things in the psych armor training. Another thing we learned was in the military culture, people say what they're going to do and then they do it. And they don't waste time with a lot of wordiness or emotion, and they do follow through. So the worst thing you can do when working with a veteran is, first of all, to be really wordy and fluffy, emotional and all that, but then to not follow through with what you said you were going to do. So make it short and sweet. You can even throw in some cuss words in there, they told us. Just make it short and sweet and follow through. That's all you got to do. Because if you say you're going to do something and you don't follow through, they just lost respect for you. They're not going to trust you. Same with my first responders. It's the same thing. Don't tell them something you're going to do and then not do it. So that was important. So another thing we learned is that when someone is in the service, they are part of a team. They are constantly plugged in. They know what to expect. They know how to communicate. They know what their mission is, and they feel needed, and they feel like they have a role to play. They know what that role is. But then when they come out of the service and come home, not only they're unplugged from that military family and that comfort of knowing what to expect, that predictability, and the fact that people say things and follow through with them, but then they come out of that back home to their family, only to find that the family has gone on without them. The family has created all new daily routines. And in fact, one general was explaining to us how when he came home from a tour, he was surprised to find out that his 13-year-old daughter had basically replaced him. That when he tried to take mom out for dinner, the 13-year-old was at home texting mom, "Mom, is everything all right? Are you okay?" Like she didn't even trust him that she had to check up on mom. But he was just shocked to find out how he was not needed anymore. He felt like, he was basically a third wheel. He felt like he was in the way almost, like a stranger. And what a horrible thing to go from being so connected, where you go to sleep, you wake up, you eat, you go and go on your mission or your training with a group. You're doing everything together as a group. And then you come home and everybody just goes and does their own thing. And you don't even know what you're supposed to be doing, let alone you're not doing it with other people. You're doing it by yourself now. So that makes sense why people would, despite promising their loved ones not to do another tour, would do another tour. Because they can't stand that sense of being unplugged, that isolation, that loneliness. I mean, that could lead anybody into drinking or other self-harming behaviors if they can't find a healthy way to cope with that. So that's something to keep in mind with the veterans who are unplugged from their military family. Another important thing I have learned in my work with my veterans is how insidious PTSD can be. So, for example, they can go and do a tour, see a bunch of blood and guts, death, things exploding, come home, think they're fine, and then 2 years later, something happens in their life that triggers a full-blown PTSD condition. So, for example, there was one lady who was a medic over in, I don't know if it was Iraq or somewhere in the Middle East. And her job was, at one point, to help young mothers with their newborn babies. I don't know if she's giving them vitamins or food or whatever. But she was fine with that. She was not married, had no kids. She was totally fine with that job. She was kind of bothered watching her buddies getting blown up, in the in the convoy where they had to bring supplies in. That bothered her. But the whole experience with the kids didn't bother her. So she comes home 2 years later, gets married, has her first baby. All of a sudden, full-blown PTSD. She cannot let that baby cry. So she's up 24/7, panic attacks, can't let the baby down in the crib, can't let it cry, because all of a sudden her brain, for whatever reason, connected it with what she saw in the Middle East. So that's something that is kind of scary to me as a clinician and makes me even more determined to push for more hypervigilance, emotional agility, psych armor training for not only the people going into the military, but also for our first responder cadets starting their careers. Because if you can learn how to stay in your body and not go into a hypervigilant state and be, present and encode the narrative with your memories, it's impossible to get PTSD. So if we can give you the proper training, we can basically inoculate you from PTSD. The problem is you're just not getting that training. So I'm going to just keep pushing for that, both in awareness and providing the trainings myself if I have to, whether it's the podcasts or post trainings or whatever I can do, go to the academies to help to get the word out and to help provide that ability, that training, that emotional agility, that psych armor, as they call it. I love that name, to help the responders and military personnel to go through all these situations that they're going to be put in and come out of it okay. I think one thing I would like to share with everybody here is we should not assume everyone who goes through a difficult situation is going to be traumatized and is going to have PTSD. And as a clinician, we should not be priming our clients to think they're going to have PTSD or that they have to have PTSD, because there's actually something we've discovered now. It's called post-traumatic growth, where people actually become stronger after going through difficult situations. So if we can help reframe things for people to, in other words, this self-fulfilling prophecy, oh, I went through a hard time and now I have to have PTSD. Hopefully we can help our clients reframe that and become stronger, and validate that they survived. And that's a good thing. And they can be stronger now. There are other techniques we can use to help if they really do have PTSD, to help the brain know that happened in the past and I'm okay and I can go forward. Another interesting aspect of PTSD in my veteran clients I've noticed is that they aren't always traumatized by the blood and guts that they've observed or experienced. A lot of times my veterans are traumatized and very anxious about the relationships they had with their superiors. So they're on disability because of the anxiety, and they also can't go out to get a job because they have so much anxiety about a superior who is not being fair or is not properly evaluating them or is setting them up to fail or get a bad review or whatever happened to them in the service. So I've been surprised about that. A lot of them are very upset about the way they were treated in service, and also they're very upset about the way the VA has treated them as far as the medical care. Maybe they didn't get the care they needed for whatever reason. There are a lot of reasons that my veterans have described to me. Also, they might not be getting the benefits that they think are due them. So that's another thing that can really upset them, because they've sacrificed a lot for their military careers. And then when they come out of them, they don't have anything to go back to. That's all they had. They put all their eggs in that basket. They sacrificed everything for that career. So when they come out and then the VA doesn't support them, that's a big disappointment. So I guess I would just like to say, if you're a clinician out there and you want to work with veterans, get involved with that psych armor training. I highly recommend it. And if we can help them to get through whatever complaints they brought home with them from their service and get them back on track, then they can have wonderful experiences and happy relationships and have a fulfilling life. It's a very rewarding experience, and I would highly recommend anybody who is either becoming a therapist or maybe is already a therapist who doesn't have a focus in their practice. I would highly recommend it. There's definitely a need for it. So I think that covers it for my work with my veterans. And I just want to thank you for watching and ask you to please subscribe and like so that more people can see it and we can get the word out that our veterans are very cherished people who sacrifice for us, and we should be there to help them any way we can. And I'm going to keep fighting for them and keep doing my podcasts and doing my counseling and just basically normalizing the idea that we're all human beings, we all have value, and we all need support. We all deserve support when we need it. So be sure to subscribe and like my podcast. And don't forget also, if you have questions or comments, to put down below. I'm going to leave the comment section open in order to encourage a really good discussion on this issue. I would love to hear what you have to say. If you're a veteran or you're a loved one of a veteran or you're another clinician, I would love to hear what you have to say on the issue of mental health for veterans. So thank you very much, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.